Lilies are the most joyful and iconic of pond plants, the epitome of aquatic beauty. But how do you grow such luscious lilies in an organic pool? As well as looking gorgeous, these large floating leaf plants provide shade to the water, discouraging green algae to help keep the water clear for swimming. They also moderate the temperature and reduce evaporation on warm summer days. Now there may be a situation in a new pond where the substrate is so low in nutrient that the plants are failing to thrive. Now this is good in the long term because it will suppress any growth of algae, but in the short term you really need your plants to be growing. So what you can do is spot fertilise. Now before you get too excited, this involves a bucket of clay. This clay has just been dug out of the ground as part of making a pool. Water is mixed in to make it nice and dollopy.
Lovely. Now we'll just add some of this.
Then powdered bone meal, a standard plant fertiliser, is added. This is a rich source of phosphates, which is exactly what our lilies need to flourish. This is kneaded into clay balls and left to dry in the sun for a day. You'll end up with these nice hard balls which you could then push into the root systems. Here's a lily root system, for instance. We can push these balls down into the root system, and they have enzymes which will break down the phosphates or allow it to be released from the surface of the clay particles. Otherwise clay is very good at binding phosphate to it. Because it can do that, look, your plant will then thrive. These lilies will thrive because they're now being spot fertilised. But because the clay is very good at retaining the phosphate, none of it, or very little of it, will get into the water column. And so the algae will be suppressed because there's very few nutrients there, but the nutrients here are supplying this plant. So we have a happy lily and unhappy algae. If you are planting afresh, then this is how I pamper them. There are a variety of different ideas as to which is the best growing media for lilies, amongst them horse muck, grass sods and garden soil. So I'm going to use all three, with the added magic ingredient, bone meal. In order to make sure this highly nutritious substrate doesn't leak into the pool, I'm putting it all in a reused tough plastic bag. Equal measures of each media, with a healthy sprinkling of bone meal. Gently mix and add some water. Place in the pot a small lily. This one is just an offshoot of an existing lily root from the pond.
Just putting some more soil around the outside just to keep it in position.
In order to add further nutrition, if needed in the future, I use a plastic bottle.
Cut a hole in the bottom. I'm going to shove this alongside the lily. But down to its roots and leave the bottle top just above the surface of the bucket.
Then seal around the top with clay to keep those nutrients in, but still allow gaseous exchange with the water.
decorate with gravel and place in the pool for a year. A year later, the plants have done so well it's become a solid mass of roots, with all the nutrients trapped inside. And we can still use the bottle to bottle feed the lily more bone meal if needed. The lily can now be replanted in the pool as it is to let it completely flourish. Now let's take a few moments to enjoy the fruits of water gardening in an organic pool.
Yeah.